Each year, there are 1 or 2 new series hits, and plenty more that crash and burn. These are our predictions for the biggest flops of 2025. These days, new Marvel shows feel less like a banquet and more like junk food, and the first MCU show of 2025 isn't looking like a 7-course meal. Slated for a June release, Ironheart stars Dominique Thorne as Riri Williams, who's created a next-gen version of Tony Stark's Iron Man suit. She'll face off against a mysterious supernatural villain called the Hood, played by Anthony Ramos.
Anyone who's ever accomplished anything iconic in life has had to do some questionable things to get it done.
There was some early buzz about Ironheart tying into a larger story involving the Don Cheadle-led Armor Wars, but that project's been on ice for years, so as of now, nobody knows if Riri Williams' story will mean anything to the MCU. There's been almost no hype around the series, in part due to delays that pushed the show back more than a year from its original air date. Throw in the fact that Williams' first appearance in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever wasn't met with any real enthusiasm, and that the current MCU has been heavily overhauled since Ironheart began filming, and we're wondering if anyone still cares. Ironheart could surprise us, but the odds that the series will be a huge hit are dwindling by the day. Like Ironheart, we have a bad feeling about Wonder Man, despite its talented lead actor Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. He plays Simon Williams, a Hollywood actor and superhero who takes on a role in a comic book TV show.
Simon Williams, reading for Wonder Man.
The series, inspired by the 90s version of the character, seems like a fun idea on paper, but there are problems. The biggest issue is that Marvel doesn't seem to have any idea where Williams fits. Is he a future Avenger as he is in the comics? Is this a standalone story? Series promotion has been almost non-existent, and there's no word on whether there's a bigger MCU role in store for Abdul-Mateen. Marvel also seems to be thumbing its nose at fans by casting Ben Kingsley. No shade to Sir Ben, but his Trevor Slattery may be one of the most hated Marvel characters ever seen on screen.
I wouldn't go in there for 20 minutes.
And a superhero TV show about a superhero TV show? She-Hulk tried that kind of meta-narrative and it didn't go well. Sadly, when it comes to the 1001 iterations of Sherlock Holmes, for every elementary, there's a bomb like Holmes and Watson.
Sometimes I hate it when I'm right.
And the latest adaptation, Sherlock and Daughter, doesn't look promising. Starring David Thewlis as Holmes, the series centers on a young Native American woman played by Blue Hunt, who befriends him while investigating the murder of her mother. And, no surprise, the case leads to a confrontation with Holmes' forever nemesis, Dr. Moriarty, played by Doug Ray Scott. The cast is decent, but does anyone anywhere really need another reinvention of Sherlock Holmes? Sherlock and Daughter is headed for the CW, which explains why, despite Sherlock getting top billing, the lead is an attractive young woman and the tone seems shiny and lighthearted. You might need a detective just to find the audience for this. Besides, Paramount Plus just launched its own Holmes adaptation with the medical procedural Watson, making Sherlock and Daughter feel more than a little superfluous. Spartacus: House of Ashur is a direct follow-up to the 2010 series Spartacus, with original series creator Stephen S. DeKnight back as showrunner. But the show isn't about Spartacus. Not surprisingly, it follows Ashur, who supposedly died at the end of the original show's second season. Now he's back as a gladiator, with the show promising something we've never seen before, and that's where we think it might go wrong. The first season of Spartacus was a hit, largely thanks to lead actor Andy Whitfield, who died of cancer before season 2. The series never recaptured the success of its first year. A decade later, we just don't see audiences clamoring to revisit that world, and DeKnight doesn't have the best track record of late. His last hit was Netflix's Daredevil a decade ago, with flops like Pacific Rim Uprising and Jupiter's Legacy in between. Do we really need another Suits? Sure, the original was a huge hit, running for 9 seasons on the USA Network, and we know how networks love a good legal franchise. So whether we like it or not, Suits LA is happening. This version moves the action to the left coast and brings on a new crop of hotshot lawyers.
We're about to be the largest firm in the city.
Suits already had a spin-off, Pearson, which was canceled just weeks after the first season ended. The reviews were solid, but the ratings were abysmal. Maybe the studio thinks it can do better with a fresh cast, but the reality is it may simply not be possible to capture this particular lightning in a bottle twice. Peaky Blinders creator Stephen Knight returns to screens in 2025 with an original period drama, 1,000 Blows. Set in London in the 1880s, the show is about an all-female crime syndicate called the 40 Elephants. But the show's real conflict comes between a pair of underground boxers, one of whom works for 40 Elephants' queenpin Mary Carr.
This might be the bottom of the barrel. but we are going to float elegantly all the way to the top.
The premise sounds promising, but period dramas are hit or miss. And while Disney and Hulu are probably banking on Knight's talent, he hasn't had a major hit since Peaky Blinders, and not for lack of trying. 1,000 Blows is a dark, serious drama, but with little star power and almost no promotion, it's likely to be another miss. That said, if any series has a chance to beat the odds, it might be this one. Outside of teen drama, sci-fi, and fantasy, the CW doesn't have much of a track record. So when the hour-long drama Good Cop, Bad Cop was first announced, hopes weren't high.
We're gonna find the guys who did this.
Well, one of them is right there, but we'll find the other guy.
The show seems to be a lighthearted drama about a family of police officers a la Blue Bloods, with teen series vets Leighton Meester and Luke Cook as sibling detectives working under their dad, played by Clancy Brown. Police procedurals are a dime a dozen, and it takes something truly special to stand out from the pack. This one, however, feels cobbled together by an algorithm, a Franken show with a smattering of elements taken from other better series. Good Cop, Bad Cop will need some serious comedy chops if it's going to last more than one season. House of David is a sweeping, big-budget biblical TV epic, the kind of show that sets off giant, flashing red alarm bells. You've probably never heard of any of the people involved, but you've almost certainly heard the story. Against all odds, a young boy named David defeats a really big dude named Goliath with a slingshot. That's right, one of the Bible's most famous stories is getting its own sprawling TV series. And from the looks of it, it will flop harder than a Philistine who just got bopped by a pebble. Airing on Prime Video, House of David looks well produced, but one glimpse at the trailer makes us think it might be better suited to a Christian TV network. It's brimming with mediocre acting, drama school dialogue, and a flat voiceover from the perspective of David's mother. Biblical epics are rarely major hits, and since the David story is already so well known, it feels like a story that didn't need to be retold. While historical dramas can certainly work when done right, this one faces an uphill battle. Prime Video's upcoming series, We Were Liars, is a psychological mystery thriller set on a small island off the coast of New England owned by the wealthy and powerful Sinclair family. The series, based on a popular young adult novel by E. Lockhart, centers around Cadence Sinclair, a teenager who experiences a traumatic incident one summer and represses her memory of what happened. Even if it didn't sound so trite and cliche, We Were Liars has an awful lot going against it, including the fact that most YA novel adaptations make truly terrible TV. Of course, there are always exceptions. 13 Reasons Why was a hit for Netflix some years ago, but the only recent entry in the genre to have much success was Percy Jackson, a series that took 2 adaptations to get right. Without much fantasy in We Were Liars, what we're left with is a psychological thriller aimed at adolescents, another subgenre that often struggles. Ryan Murphy is one of TV's most in-demand talents, having created both great and terrible shows across a variety of genres. He's behind the macabre hit American Horror Story, the tongue-in-cheek emergency procedural 911, and the love it or loathe it teen musical dramedy Glee. But Murphy doesn't always churn out gems. In fact, he's got a lot of flops to his name. His success largely comes from how prolific he is. In 2025, there's a new Ryan Murphy joint headed to Hulu, All's Fair, and we're betting this one won't be in the win column.
If you don't love this, I'm gonna commit literal murder-suey.
A legal drama with a supercast, All's Fair stars Glenn Close, Sarah Paulson, Naomi Watts, and Kim Kardashian. And get this, Close isn't the show's lead. That's Kardashian, as a divorce lawyer who heads up an all-female firm. The choice to have Kardashian front a high-profile streaming series is super questionable, especially with so many great talents in the supporting cast. Kardashian's only previous major role came in 2023's Delicate, the 12th season of American Horror Story. This move feels like stunt casting in a bid to earn eyeballs.
What did I get myself into? Can I really pull this off? But I think I can.
Ultimately, we think there's a chance that All's Fair will be a ratings success, especially given the talent involved, but we predict it won't be loved by critics, and after the novelty wears off, probably won't be appreciated by audiences either. Stories about young people discovering their place in the adult world are low-hanging fruit for show creators, and that's exactly what Adults seems to be going for. The series revolves around a group of early 20-somethings navigating life and each other in New York City, as their friendships and rivalries, yada yada yada. We've all heard it a dozen times before.
Hello, you've reached the winter of our discontent.
The cast is made up of fresh-faced newcomers, none of whom you've ever heard of, but the biggest red flag is that the show is created and run by the duo of Rebecca Shaw and Ben Cronengold. Labeled as a comedy couple by Paste, their only writing credits are for The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, which doesn't fill us with confidence. At best, Adults could wind up being a 21st century TV version of movies like Singles or Reality Bites, and at worst, it might be a more dramatic clone of Friends aimed at Gen Z. But to us, it just looks like a long-form version of a bad SNL sketch populated by newly minted, not ready for primetime players.